Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. I will call us to order at 7:01 PM on September 23rd, 2025. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, you may. Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. H.
Present.
You're not a board member, but.
But I'm here
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Mr. Goldman is absent.
That is correct. We have an agenda that has been presented. Is there any alterations to the agenda as presented? Mostly a budget meeting.
Yep. No. I'll make a motion to
Accept the agenda as
accept the
presented.
agenda as presented.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to privilege of the floor. We don't have anybody in person, but we do have a couple folks online. Give me just 1 second. If you'd like to speak, I'm just pulling up my timer. Up to 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay, well, we will have a second round at the end of the meeting if you wish to address us then. Moving on to old business. The first item up is scheduling in the introduction of a local law and the scheduling of a public hearing. This pertains to the currently existing Development District 3. Back at the first meeting in August, the current owner of the property was before the town board. And this is a project, or this is a proposal that has been through review by the town board. And this is the legislation that comes out of that August meeting. What it does is it splits Development District 3 into the portion, about half of the property. This is the Bar Angus property on Route 96, and it's a triangle that also is on Halseyville. It splits about half the property into residential on the Halseyville side, in the residential zone. And it moves the other portion to remain in Development District 3. So it's an alteration, and this local law has been prepared by the town attorney. So that's based on, it's very long, largely because of the track amount, the survey material that has to be done in it.
Running fence.
Lots of running fences.
Yes.
At this point, the action before us, as the board is amenable, is to introduce it, which we're doing right now, and then schedule it for a public hearing. The public hearing would be at our second meeting in October. That is October 28th, scheduling it for 7 PM. Right now, we have to send it out. That gives us more than 30 days to send it out for 239 review by the county and the interested agencies for environmental. So we should have all those results back. But the town board has already gone through part of the seeker process. We were waiting for the full application, which included the survey materials to be provided. They were provided last week, so now we can go out to environmental review. That's already been pre-done by the town board. So that's what we're looking at tonight. It's just scheduling the public hearing. Unless anybody has any concerns about the legislation as presented.
No, I don't. No. It's true. For it is. As laws can be.
Michael, anything? Any concerns at this point?
No, it's just a public hearing, so.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then I'd accept a motion. So the resolved on this is that a public hearing shall be held by the town board on of the town of Ulysses with respect to the adoption of the aforesaid local law on October 28, 2025 at 7 PM or as soon thereafter as it may be heard, and is further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to cause public notice of said hearing to be given as provided by law. Anybody willing to move that?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further comment or discussion? Okay, hearing that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, next item of new business, as board members will remember in, the line item review of the budget, one of the items that, Scott presented was his desire to engage in, an engineering assessment of Water District 3 in order to, assessment's the wrong word. He was looking to do, some long-term strategic planning related to Water District 3 infrastructure. In the, line by line, we actually, had budgeted $10,000 from Water District 3 to pay for, an assessment to help us plan long-term for what steps we're gonna need to take. Not in the day-to-day maintenance, but in the long term, what we can anticipate needing to be planning for so that we can target our capital investments and reserves to match that. So, in the meantime, and so we budgeted for that in that phase. But in the meantime, we were able to connect, with RCAP Solutions. RCAP helped us with, a community survey when we did the water source protection plan. RCAP Solutions is actually funded, with federal money. We're very fortunate that the individual who covers our area, Becky Sims, is, she lives in Enfield and she is formerly of, Tompkins County Public Health, Whole Health. On the environmental, side. And so she has a lot of experience. We reached out to RCAP. RCAP can basically do the exact same thing with no cost to the town. And, she may even be able to have it done by the end of this year. So that would mean in 2026, the town is well suited to start planning for that. So, this is their very simple contract. It's already been reviewed by legal. There's very little risk to the town, being that there is no cost to the town. And I had Scott review this and it fulfills what he was looking for. They may be able to get it done by the end of the year, but there's a service period through, April of next year. So it's just based on how everything works in the scheduling. Either way, it's a savings to Water District 3 of $10,000. So we've adjusted the, budget accordingly. So, any questions about that?
Does Scott or anybody have a write-up of what they want? Cause he was a little. He was. Kind of knew what he wanted, but it didn't sound like he had anything formal.
So what they're gonna do is like, so under the technical assistance description, he and Becky sat down and he talked about what they were looking for. I think we don't know what we're looking for specifically, other than some guidance about the direction we're going in terms of what we can anticipate with a water system. And so, they're going to, help us. They're gonna do an assessment of the water system, and do, standard updating procedures of the water system. The idea is they were very excited to work with us. They typically work with systems that are already in the process of mild failures. So this is going to be able to take the document that we already have that you referenced in our last meeting and expand upon that for long-term planning. And then they're not gonna be able to help us necessarily with the financial planning side of it. But when we have an idea of what we need, then we can start putting some projected numbers to it. So at least we have tentative goals that we can start working towards.
Yeah.
And
Will they also consult Bolton Point as well? I mean, at least ask them questions.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
I would anticipate that, but I can confirm with Scott
Yeah.
that in fact happens. Right? I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. Yeah. And if we need to do a further study, or further engineering work,
Yeah.
we can always do that in the future.
I know somebody's husband can be a good resource too. So.
Not mine, but somebody else's, right?
Yeah, somebody else's.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Nope, thank you.
Great. Okay, well, there's a resolution for me to be able to sign it. Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign a contract with RCAP Solutions. Is there a motion to approve that? Or any?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
great. Any further discussion or comment? Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Really exciting good news.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. I agree. And I'm happy for Becky that she doesn't have to travel as far because she covers big territory, so you're in her backyard. Okay, that brings us to Blixie's portion of the agenda. we've got a tentative budget to present. Well, actually, Chris actually has to officially present the agenda or the tentative budget.
Right, and I made copies for everybody. I know we handed stuff out at our last line by line,
He's presenting them on my behalf.
Wonderful. Thank you.
but it is also online.
Just a few changes, is that?
Correct, and I can talk to you about what those are. From our last line by line meeting, but I also, did you want me to hand out this other document as well right now, or what?
Sure. This is something I asked Lexi to put together.
This is a history of our fire and EMS. There's two here. Contract as well as our revenue.
For the public's sake, would you mind giving us an overview just of where the budget stands? You know,
Yes,
the fiscal health of the town, so to speak.
yes, so on page 3 of the budget document, the tentative budget document. Is the sort of where the rubber hits the road in terms of the tax levy. And right now, this tentative budget has our proposed levy at 3.13% increase, which is just below the tax cap, which is 3.16%. So this budget does not exceed the cap. And essentially meets the needs that have been identified by the various department heads or other external organizations that we have obligations to fund. So, and all of the things that we discussed in our detailed line by line meetings with the board, the last several meetings. So that's just like the bottom line in a sense of where we landed. This summary page has a history of the tax levy and the percentage changes from year to year. It has an example of what a median home might, look like in terms of their tax bill and how that looks from year to year. It also has the tax rates that would be in place by taxing district, the total town versus fire and EMS versus and so forth. And it's all broken out here category by category. I know it probably looks small on this piece of paper in terms of the size of the numbers to read. But in terms of town-wide taxes, we're looking at actually a decrease in our rate.
Yes.
Of 5.9%. And that, even though taxes are going up, the rate is going down because the overall assessed valuation goes up. So, and we're looking at a slight increase in the town outside the village, if I'm saying that correctly, of 1.8%, with a total town of being a decrease of 3.08%. And then there is an increase in the tax rate for fire and EMS of a little over 6%. And when you look at it all together, the tax rate is going up 1.55%. Though the levy is going up 3.13%. So the difference in that has to do with the way that the money is spread out among the cost, the valuation of the town. That makes sense?
So for a median home in the town who is not using public water, the taxes are projected to go up a little over $10 from 2025. If you're a median home last year and a median home this year. And in the village, it's less than $1.
Correct.
So the real driver of the increase of anything is in fire and EMS. That's what's pushing, that's pushing on our budget. So which is why I asked Lexi to put together the history of the EMS and fire contracts, as well as the history of EMS revenue and the costs of the town. Because this is, while we have absolutely no control any substantive way about what these costs are, I think it's important for the residents, property owners to understand where costs are being driven. It's not being services outside of these services inside EMS and fire. But overall, we're coming up, the levy is increasing at about the rate of inflation. So.
Right, right. So that's a quick overview. Page 2 also is a summary of by fund of the financial impact from, year over year. Both it lists the prior year actual data, the current year budget, and the tentative budget that we're looking at today. And the change from budget to budget um, for appropriations by fund, for revenues by fund, not including taxes, and then property tax revenue by fund. So you can see how things might be moving around a little bit. Sometimes, for example, in general fund in A, we're spending less, but we have less revenue, and that has to do with a federally funded project. That's a one-time thing that was recorded in A fund in the current year, and it won't be repeating next year. So some of these changes, budget to budget, have to do with changes in actual activity. But it gives you a sense of whether spending is going up or down, or revenue is going up or down. In addition to the specific property tax revenue that's funding each area of the town. So that's page 2. That's an overview of that.
Question, Lucy.
Yes.
Can you remind me what the increase in the DB is? 25 to 26.
Yes, it has to do with the fact that we have a lot of state aid available to do highway improvements, and we plan to use it all. And so we've not only will be modifying our current year budget, but we're going to be spending more next year. We had been rolling money over, thinking that we might use it to purchase equipment. But that plan looked like it isn't as viable now as it was then. And so we're actually putting all of that state aid into actual road improvements in the town. And over next year and the following year, we're also spending more this year too. We're going to try to actually use all of that state aid to make improvements. And so you'll see that in Scott's requests for the town to approve his is it a 248 agreement?
284.
284. I
Well,
can
we got the numbers right.
yeah, just not in the right order. Where he's showing what roads are going to be improved and so forth. And so you'll see an increase in activity there. But that's what the big change is, and it's both in revenue and in expense, so it's on both sides.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to mention that the couple of changes we made, and we'll go through the budget, by fund, but from the last time we met with the board to review the details of this, to get it to where it is now, as Caitlin mentioned, we're not going to use money to pay for an engineering study. So I'm adding money back into reserves in the Water District 3. I had actually reduced slightly the amount being dedicated to building reserves in order to pay for the study. So I just put it back in. So the bottom line in the Water District 3 didn't really change. I just changed where the money was being allocated. And once we have some more data, we'll know what our maybe have better goals for what those reserves are. But I know we're going to need to build them up now that the debt has been paid off. So, and the overall, I'm just looking at water, and the overall taxes are staying below the cap 3%. So it's not impacting the tax burden in that district either. So just mentioning that. The other thing that we did was in the general fund, Caitlin and I had planned to add some funds to reserves for capital improvements for this building, because we know we have some things we still need to do here. And we were going to put $50,000 towards that, and we cut that in half. And that's to make the budget balance within the levy. So when we were at our last meeting, I think we were out of whack by about 25,000, and that's exactly what I took out of that reserve. We're still adding to the reserve, but just not to the level that we had originally planned. And that's the change that I made. So as far as I recall, those are the only two changes I made to this document since the last time we met and I handed out updated papers. So.
Nice
Yeah.
work.
What's that?
Nice work.
So the EMS information I did hand out at Caitlin's request. I don't know if you want to talk about that now.
Yeah,
Um,
I would,
This one?
yeah.
yes, it's a single page.
Um,
I went back through and scheduled out what our contract amounts were for the last 10 years. Including the tentative budget contract. I know that those numbers aren't set in stone yet, but I imagine they won't change much. And then, in addition to that, there's another chart that shows the revenue that we receive that offsets the EMS contract, and which ends up being, the net cost is what is funded by tax dollars. So, that's what's being reflected there. And again, some of the numbers are projected and estimated. They're 2024 is the only number that we know for sure. 2025 and 2026 are estimates. Based on where we are right now, but things could change. So you can see these numbers have moved around a bit over the years. They kind of jump up and down. So that certainly has an impact. I can't say that I have any information as to why, but that's what the numbers are.
Yeah, I did a quick percentage calculation of how much revenue, contributes to the net cost. I'm sorry, to revenue contribute offsets. The, actually, that is not a useful number. No, that's not true.
Revenue number you're saying?
Oh, you didn't put in I did the calculations incorrectly, sorry.
So, yeah, the net
I
cost,
calculated off of the net cost, which is not the correct act.
right,
Right.
right.
So, I mean, so we are projecting. We're projecting $80,000 next year conservatively based on what we're anticipating for this year. And that's 15% of the total cost to have an EMS contract. And comparing that to, say, 2017, the difference is,
Yeah, it was about a third.
yeah, it was at 33%.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing, what I think this is useful for is to really clearly demonstrate the costs to have EMS services are increasing at a rate that our billing isn't beginning to match, right? And if this continues, I mean, this puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the tax base. This is where our, ability to stay under the tax cap is really challenged year after year. There's only so many places we can derive revenue. I think we've done a good job. The board, really went through looking at our zoning and building permit fees. That's a place we drive revenue. We've gotten recreation to a point where it's, the recreation side is there's some subsidy by the tax base shared between the village and the town, but significant percentage of the operating costs are in fact covered by the fees people pay to participate. But at this rate that we're going, it's considerable. I don't think there's anything functionally we can do in this current budget cycle, but I wanted to bring this to the attention of the board because we're trending in a way that's making it increasingly expensive to participate. I'm not suggesting not doing it. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just, these are the facts. This is part of the reason that I do think Ulysses needs to take a more proactive role in pushing the county to take EMS services seriously. There is a bill sitting on the governor's desk right now that would mandate that every county put together a plan within 6 months about how to look at county services. Because if you look at county services for EMS and a countywide solution, because if you look at and Michael, you were there, if you look at the budget put together in terms of EMS for the village, it's based on call volume, right? So we're about 35% of call volume for EMS within the town of Ulysses, outside village. But if you subtract or say add in a percentage of calls outside district that we're serving on a mutual aid basis, our call volume numbers would drop to about 30%. There's a huge difference in cost, right, between 30% and 35%. And I'm not saying that mutual aid isn't important. I'm not saying that we don't want our neighbors and other municipalities to get an EMS, get an ambulance when they're in a medical crisis, but these numbers are not sustainable long term. I mean, what does this look like 10 years from now? If it keeps going in this trajectory, like we're gonna be in an EMS revenue challenge. So I'm hoping that the board can pick up looking in 2026 at what are our options. There's so much fluctuation in revenue. After this current year, we will have had a full year under our belt with our new EMS billing firm. That should help us get a better sense. Their services are much more robust in terms of the administrative side of how billing works. A lot of things were slipping through the cracks with the previous billing company because there are timelines that if there's any errors in the coding, insurance wants to look for every reason not to pay a bill, right? So if there are any errors in coding, if there's anything that needs to be fixed, there's only a relatively short window to operate in. And now they're able to respond more effectively because of the software that the billing agency provides that the other one didn't. So hopefully in 2026, we'll have a better sense, but I look at this and I see this as, and I am not a numbers person, this is financially catastrophic for the town long-term if we can't get on top of it. Because if your contract goes from 318, 495 in 2016 to already 531, 306 in 2026, that's a decade of more than $200,000 increase. What does another decade look like? So, and our revenue is projected to be lower for 2026 than it was in 2016. Since we don't have anything better to work with.
Do they engage with you on quarterly or semi-regular basis?
So we get monthly call volumes, like we get monthly reports on the calls that are coming in, but the billing the reimbursement doesn't come, it's not as standardized. Could you mind explaining how you get your?
Well, basically, when the village pays us, I get an accounting of month by month how much we're getting paid for and how many fees we're paying in relationship to those. Because we're paying for the billing service too. And then we get the net amount, but it's when the village prepares a voucher to pay us. And they've been putting more detail in the voucher, which is helpful. But I don't always get it like every month. I mean, I don't know what their cycle is, so.
Well, I'm wondering, like between you and Rorden, when you have your conversations, does he say, how's it going? Or, because I know they have overtime issues, staffing issues, which causes the overtime issues. I mean, does he just give you a state of this is where we are?
I mean, we talk about it generally. I mean, I think that it's, we're seeing call volume pressure going up. And that's something that we talk about a lot is the number of calls that are going and how we're trending in that. And we have not had those fine grained conversations on revenue because the revenue, it was difficult to have those because we're now in a new billing cycle.
Yeah, although, I mean, you were asking about cost of operation, but.
Well, yeah, but like this meeting, I felt like was the most transparent meeting
Right.
of any of the ones I've ever attended. I felt
Right.
like they were like, okay, they're
Here
laying
it
it out on the
is.
table.
Yeah.
Before, I always felt like they were very guarded about their information.
I would say I found Joel, who heads up EMS in the village, to be very thoughtful, very willing to engage in conversation. Every time I've had conversations with him, it's what it seems to boil down to is that the EMS is experiencing a lot of the same problems that healthcare overall is experiencing. There are just fewer people doing the work. Costs are going up, and the revenue associated with who's getting services isn't increasing to match. So a sizable percentage of the people that we serve in our community and outside and elsewhere in the district is is on Medicare or Medicaid. And they have very fixed costs about reimbursement rates, and their reimbursement rates is like a third of the actual costs. So we're subsidizing, so their rates, they have not been increasing their rates. So basically the village, I know that that we basically have a fly card, and you asked about the fly card, Joel operates the fly card. And that has made a huge difference in response times and all of that, but our conversations largely have been, yes, still hard. And that's really what we're
But
confronting.
you also asked Joel if he could help me get access to
The portal.
the portal. So that I don't have to wait necessarily for the village to send me a check. I can actually see what's going on.
So you can
So-
see like what's being spent and what we're gonna get reimbursed for.
Well, yeah, so it's really the portal of the billing company,
Oh.
so I can see the calls that are assigned to us and the billings that might be coming, whatever. Obviously, the money we get is after they've been billed and we get paid. So it might be interesting to see how much is out there versus how much we're actually, how quickly does it come in, and I don't have up till now, I didn't have a way to associate call volume with the money either. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll just get better data. I'll be able to get better reports. And maybe we can do a little more, better predictive modeling in terms of what the revenue might be.
Right, because you can see how much, so in the course of that meeting, but I think I was the one who asked the question about how much money is the village making? Right, on out of district calls. And they've billed since this year, they've billed $60,000 and received $5,000 in revenue. I mean, so I'm not saying that 5,000 is nothing, but it's functionally nothing in this budget. But it does show that they build for, right, considerably more. And so when I talked to Covert they believe that there are only a few outstanding claims that never get paid. We're with getting access to the portal, like you said, we're hoping to be able to do more predictive revenue estimates, because right now we're just basing it on what
Yeah,
this year's looking like,
Guessing,
right?
basically.
And it's come in fits and starts, and
Yeah.
also it helps us, basically audit what we're receiving, because we want to make sure that we really are receiving what we're entitled to and not more or less.
Right, right. I do think one of these historical years, there was some kind of audit that took place, which is why the number is as big as it is. It might have been in 2018. Or 19, excuse me, where there was a big jump and then it went back down. I think there was some extra revenue in there that year,
Yeah.
where there might have been an audit done, but
They got smacked by the comptroller's office.
so I
for
don't
those
know.
EMS.
But
I
yeah,
think the
so
only way to
that's,
control it is if you guys have a dialogue. Because
I mean,
there's not many ways you can cap it, right? You can do what they're doing and try to distribute the cost to their customers,
right.
which they're phasing in. Then there's, do you one car, do you eliminate it? There's, that's an extreme.
I
which
mean,
nobody's
yeah.
proposing, right?
So I can tell you that Vernon and we have talked a lot about the fact that the village, the town of Ulysses is the biggest share of EMS. And the town of Dryden is the biggest share of their EMS in the village of Dryden. We're subsidizing countywide service for municipalities who are not paying anything on their taxes. And having been now in the town budget for several years now, I appreciate that, like, standing up ambulance service or buying into an existing ambulance service is a leap that I don't think is financially surmountable. I mean, maybe you can speak to that perspective from a town that doesn't have existing contracts, but the model doesn't work. Like, this is an essential service. It needs to be treated like an essential service. So there's this has been a conversation at the TCOG level considerably about this model doesn't work. And Word mentioned that. So he and I have, I think maybe there are things we could tweak. We could look at whether or not we're capturing as much money as we reasonably can without penalizing people. I'm not looking to be punitive in our billing, but if insurance companies are dodging us, we should be getting our money from insurance companies, and hopefully this billing model, this billing company is helping us do that better than the previous one was. So that's one aspect, and that's something that led to lots of conversations with the village, led to changing billing companies last year, or for this year. On the bigger model is Tompkins County needs to take seriously that their residents need a shared model for how these services are funded. It's not fair that the city of Ithaca residents are not paying for ambulance services as part of their taxes. It's just not fair. It's not fair to our ambulance company. It's not fair to Dryden's ambulance company. We're backfilling a private company. So it's one of those things that the county and New York State, in my opinion, need to take this seriously, and we need to collectively work, because right now it's optional to participate, right? And as long as it's optional, we can't find ways to have shared services. Fire is not optional, it's an essential service. It's mandated by law that we have to provide it. And so every town figures out a way to do it, but the county leadership really could help us progress this along. And so that's kind of where a lot of the EMS conversation, frankly, has been happening, is that this is not sustainable for us. I would never want to be on the town board that says we're no longer providing ambulance services, the town policies. I would never want to get to that point. I also categorically refuse to get to the point where we're Dryden subsidizing 40% of the calls. We're at 12.8-ish for the last cycle from June to June or whatever. That's bad enough. 40% is not reasonable. So again, I think people need to have ambulance services, but the county needs to step forward and in the same way that they provide the sheriff's department, right? We need to doesn't mean that they need to take over all the ambulance companies, but they're in the best position to equitably distribute the costs so that every resident in our county can call 911 and get a better response time. Somebody over the weekend had like a 45-minute wait time.
That's ridiculous.
Not in our town, but in one of the other towns. That's unconscionable, right? Like nobody wants that for their fellow county residents. So anyway, advocacy. So I'm hoping that I can come back to you with any direction about what else the town can do to help support pushing for a countywide solution to this very countywide problem. So. Because the real costs are going up, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of tweaking to be done, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is a huge jump since 10 years.
Okay.
So. So Rich isn't here, but he went to a lot of the line by lines. Do you want to go fund by fund? We might be in a position this year, we can head towards a preliminary budget faster than in previous years.
Certainly possible. why don't we just, whatever the board wants, but we could just walk through fund by fund. I mean, we've already done this to some degree. So I would go kind of quickly. Unless there's some areas that you would like specifically need to focus on, or you had questions about. Again, not a lot has changed since the materials I distributed the last meeting.
I was able to make all the meetings, so I've seen everything, but if you need to do something for the public.
I was gonna say, what do you
Yeah,
need to,
I
what do
can
we
certainly-
need to?
Mary, I know,
present?
is hoping we will do a renew line by line and go into excruciating
She's ready to
detail.
Right. Well, I can just, first of all, I could,
All of the budget meetings are posted also.
yeah, all the budget
Yeah, they gotta
meetings.
be quiet, right?
Yeah.
But they're all recorded and posted if
Yeah.
somebody wanted to listen to them. Well, I can just start by saying some of the overall factors that are impacting the budget is that we are planning a 3% increase in wages across the board. That's one of the things. We know that benefit costs are going up substantially. I did finally get actual numbers for dental and retiree health insurance. But the big cost is really in the health insurance through the consortium at 18%. So that's having a big impact here.
That vote's Thursday.
Okay. I'm not anticipating that it's gonna turn out differently.
No,
for any of the municipalities that I work with.
I know they're struggling to get a quorum though.
Oh,
So whether they actually can get a vote, I'm not sure.
okay,
Did they say what's driving that up?
Medical costs,
yeah, the
But like, what?
claims.
more
Part of it.
claims. We've been seeing a lot more claims lately in the last year.
So, and, we have, I know we're not.
What's that?
Sorry.
I said, no, I was just gonna say, I sent the presentation if you wanna dig into that.
Well, that would have, so it's a percentage increase in claims, because they also have a lot more members.
Yeah.
So more claims. should
More
be-
claims.
Right,
You
but
would
it would
think
be
that- and that
in
question was
relationship
actually
to
asked
the
quite a
number
lot.
of.
We have more and more members, but I said there's more claims that those members are bringing too.
Are they mental health claims?
No, but they are expanding some mental health awareness of
And,
sessions and so forth.
and we participate in the employee assistance program that is also offered through the consortium. It's available to everyone, who
If you
works
need-
here, including elected officials. And there's a lot of emphasis on mental health and other things if somebody needed services. And usually there's a consultation or at least a couple of consultations that are free through this service, and the cost is very reasonable to the town. I mean, it's definitely a great preventative care
Okay.
offering for people. I mean, it's not just mental health, but there is a lot of discussion about that. You know, opportunities for people to get help if they need it. So. So starting with general fund, I guess I would just maybe point out where there are some changes that are different. More than, let's say, the standard sort of cost of inflation. And I can just walk through it with you if you'd like, and I'll be quick and just stop me if you have questions. In the town board, we are expecting 2 new board members. And so there's additional funds there for training for those folks to attend training.
We have
So-
page 6, let's see.
I am on page 6, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Carissa. And so, you know, we're not talking about a large dollar amount, but the percentage is big change. There was a larger amount of funding for staffing for special projects in the supervisor's office. And we cut that back from 11,000 to 5,000, but it still leaves a little bit there. It's really more utilizing current staff to do extra work if need be. For as things might emerge. So in the current year, we really have not utilized that very much, but it's possible. So we left that funding there, but decreased it. I would also say that in the engineering line, A 1440.4, the original the modified budget to what we're projecting and in next year is quite different because we had did some work for the bridge grants to apply for funding that I actually put in the DA fund under bridges in this budget. So I've just moved it from one area to the other. It's the same tax base, but it's in the more proper accounting. So that's changed where it's located. We still continue to apply for grants for our culverts and bridges. So let's see. And of course, in the town hall area, you know, we have that parking lot project this year. It's not repeating next year. And so you see a huge reduction in the outlay for capital equipment and capital outlay. That just includes sort of normal equipment purchases to support the town hall, like computer equipment and furnishings, things like that.
On the EV charging station.
Yes.
Town.
That again.
Nope, it looks like 1,300, so
For
we're just
real.
doing the 1 year.
I just put the 1 year in
Okay,
there.
no, that's
until
all
we
I wanted.
figure out
I
what
actually
we're
already
doing.
Signed it.
Okay.
So.
I'm
Yeah.
not going down that route.
It's just the 1 year.
Okay.
I'm just.
It's a bit.
That was all I was gonna say.
I don't, in the highway barn, we're, going to be replacing an overhead door or doors, so, there's equipment money for that. I'm just moving along quickly. Sorry if I miss anything that you're interested in. In the recreation area, I just want to say that, we're looking at expanding, adult programming. And so there's more expense, but there's also more revenue. So it would, the revenue would pay for the programming. But that's sort of the differences you see here, and the costs are also offset by revenue. And we are going to be utilizing a consultant this year, right, to work on possibly relocating summer camp and expanding potentially.
Yeah.
And that's not repeating next year, so that's something we expect to happen this year, even though we haven't
This
spent
year,
the money
the
yet.
year-
This year meaning 20.
Yeah, I mean, we might be coming back to the board to basically put any balance into an assigned fund. I'm talking to one.
Carry it over.
Carry
yeah.
it over for work into 2026. Will is able to connect us with one of the SUNY programs to be the consultant, and we're not quite sure how much all of that would cost. So there might be some savings, or it might spill into 2026, but
Right.
it'll be cheaper than hiring it. I think it'll be a more robust outcome for the town.
So, the other thing I'll just mention generally, it applies to this category of parks and personal services, A 7110.1. It's a small number in the tentative budget, but what that represents is our DPW assigning staff to do functions that are for the town, like maintenance and mowing, or cemetery maintenance, or things like that, or town hall maintenance. And throughout this budget, there's small amounts in personnel services. And those staff are allocated to those functions. So we're not adding staff. But we're utilizing existing staff, and what I've done is just changed how their time is allocated in the budget, that's all. But so some of these might have already been there, some of them are new, like this parks one. We've added a new focus for the DPW staff to be able to do some work there. It's not a large number, but it's a sort of a change in practice and how we're allocating time.
That would be largely focused on Smith Woods. We have some expectations of hours that if we do accept a donation from Smith Woods, and I most likely will be bringing you a draft donation agreement next month. So that would be a component. And we also, in the discussions about accepting the Pritz parcel, we had some expectations of like bush hogging a couple of times a year. So that's factored into the detail there.
Right. A lot of the spending lines in the section of the budget that follows, the youth programming again is part of our joint youth commission activity, and we did review that in some detail during our line by lines and with the youth commission. So, not a lot of change there, just, ongoing increased cost of operation. And a lot of the items that follow, like the library and the historical society and celebrations and community programming, are all requests from outside organizations that the town board reviewed in detail at previous meetings and in our line by line meetings. And most of those requests have been held at the same level as the prior year. So that's what you see here. Benefits are going up. The way that they're allocated could be moving around a little bit again as I allocate staff time a little bit differently. Benefits could be as well. But this, in the general fund on page 7, they pretty much fall in line for the most part with the numbers we've been talking about in terms of increased costs. Retirement system costs are also going up quite a bit. And so I budgeted in the neighborhood of 10% for those rates. So they're also influenced by the compensation we're paying as well. So And that's a really quick overview of the A fund spending. The reserve funding, again, there's $25,000 for a repair reserve, which is really for the building, because we still have some outstanding items in this building that need to be addressed. I think the clerk's office area is one of them.
Yes, I would really like to get Chris's office.
I mean, we do have
Fixed.
reserve funds, but I think continuing to fund that is important, so that's in here. And then on page 8 are the revenues. Just think about, again, other than tax revenue, the various categories of revenues include the recreation area. And that's, pretty significant, and it continues to grow along with the programming. The sales tax, which again, we do expect sales tax to be going up. I'm budgeting 5% from our current budget, but I've reallocated how it's distributed among the different funds. So in the general fund, we actually are slightly reducing the allocation to make sure we have enough for funds that don't receive property taxes. So we have enough, and that's the B and DV funds. So that's where that shifting is occurring. The court revenue has definitely been going up as well, and so you see that reflected in this budget. It's not insignificant. It's hard to predict sometimes. But it has increased quite a bit this year from prior years. Other kinds of funding that we receive has been pretty steady. Our general state aid payments never change. It's been the same amount forever.
That works well because there's no inflation, no anything else, so.
And mortgage tax, we've been fairly conservative in our budget with, but I've budgeted this year more consistent with what we've received, so we're not under budgeting that. So there we are, and then we're appropriating on the last page of the general fund on page 9. You can see that we're appropriating $200,000. Again, 25 of that is adding money to reserves. I know it's not in this document specifically, but on this page. But in the fund balance summary, which is on page 5, there's clear indications of how much unappropriated fund balance would be remaining even after we've appropriated the funds, and it's summarized for each fund. It's a landscape document. And so for the general fund, you can see that we would still have 43% fund balance as a percent of appropriations, even after appropriating $200,000. So we're still carrying fund balance a little bit higher than our policy, which is not a bad thing. But we can, we're not being imprudent appropriating $200,000, I guess that's what I'm saying. And some of that is going to fund reserves, which is also a good way to utilize excess fund balance. So I just wanted to point that out. And so for all the funds, you can see here on page 5 where we are with unappropriated fund balance after the recommended tentative appropriations.
So you'll see that B is above, probably most sizable
Yeah.
one above.
Yeah.
So we don't have reserves for B fund. And so we have some anticipated costs associated with, especially the zoning update that's coming, that would naturally follow the comp plan. So we're actually deliberately kind of saving some money, holding it back in fund balance because we don't have the ability to put it into reserves, if that makes sense. So and if you'll recall, last year, we were scraping by at the fund balance policy level, like it was a lot closer last year. So this is a fluctuation that we anticipate it being
Yeah.
spent.
And part of the reason we've achieved that is, I mean, we're still appropriating fund balance at of 65,000 in the B fund. But we have allocated a little higher percentage of sales tax so that on an ongoing basis, there's adequate revenue there to fund operations. But we've also had some charges for building permits and other things that have been higher than anticipated and may not necessarily be repeating. And so that has allowed us to kind of accumulate this that can be used for some of these larger items that we think are coming
One-time
in the next
purchases.
year or two.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get this to a point where, you know, barring large and unusual items, we're kind of at a stable level of fund balance that's funded adequately between fees and sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
So that, because that's really the only money coming in there at this point.
We have guaranteed costs with staffing and,
Right.
and not guaranteed revenues
Right.
with building fees and permits.
Well, and sales tax too. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
that's also something that could change. So,
And the fund
Yeah.
overall is considerably smaller in comparison to a fund.
right.
It's a smaller.
So, but that's why that number is as high as it is, because there's some specific things that we're concerned about making sure we have enough funds to pay for. And we don't have the ability to set it aside,
Right.
you know, officially in that fund.
And Water District 3 ended up a bit higher because we didn't have to spend that $10,000.
Well, I
Is that
actually,
not so?
that's,
Did you not?
I added that to what we were putting into reserve.
Okay, I apologize.
So I think that's just where we are with Water District 3. We're a little over and we can continue to put more in reserves, or we can look at how we're. You know, we could look at a lot of things there, but until we have that little analysis done, I think maybe it's good to have a little wiggle here. Again, since the debt was paid off, you know, the tax amount went down substantially. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're putting money aside now for infrastructure. And so that's, I think, our focus. So that might need to be right sized slightly, but it's not bad. Obviously, EMS is actually just barely what it needs to be. And DB, the highway part-town is slightly under the upper level. So those are the ones that are tighter. Okay. Any questions about A? And what's in there? Not a lot of differences, really, not a lot of change.
Looks good.
All right. So on page 10 is where P fund starts, what we were just discussing. And 10 shows the various appropriation lines spending. Again, you know, we make estimates the best we can for engineering and attorneys and other anticipated costs. We do have funds in here to pay for contracted services to help move forward with the comp plan and to help move forward with zoning revisions. But those are sort of nominal amounts at this point. Placeholders, so there's $10,000 for the potential zoning revisions and 21.5 for the input comp plan implementation. Depending on what it is that needs to be done, it could be more than that. I don't know. We got some rough estimates, I think. So that's in there. I don't really have a lot more to say about this, you know, as on the expense side, most of it is just the staff and the operation of the planning board, the BZA, the staff that work in the offices. And there's 3. So Moving on to page 11 is where we're looking at revenue. So for the sales tax here, you can see it's going up 6%. When the budget, the actual revenue, I'm budgeting to be up 5%. So there's just a very slight shift over to B fund. It's not dramatic. But it's just trying to align things, I think, for long term, so we don't have to keep jockeying things around, basically. And then money for fees. I know during our line by line meetings, we agreed to budget for building permits at the same level that I'm projecting for this year, due to some one-time larger activity that we're anticipating again next year. And that was at the request of the board as a result of some of those discussions, so. So that's where we are. I don't know if people have questions about that.
No. Line by lines were very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the DA fund, which is on page 12. Again, the biggest changes here are, one, we are budgeting in the maintenance of bridges for some consulting for studies regarding continuing to address our more needier culverts that are in need of repair, maintenance, etc. And so that is the money we've set aside for that. It also is coming out of fund balance essentially too. So, and then in the machinery, brush and weeds, snow removal, the most important thing there is that we are not going to be providing snow removal for county roads, only town roads. And so costs are shifting around a bit in terms of how people are spending their time. So the biggest changes in both highway funds, DA and DB, have to do with how people's time is being allocated as we're shifting our focus on some of our work. So, and that will also affect benefits. So in the case of some of the benefit calculations, that would be, that's influencing some of those changes is how people are assigned to different tasks. And we are funding the capital equipment reserve based on the plan that was reviewed and approved by the board. So that's right from that document. And on page 13 is where the revenues are. And you can also see that we're appropriating $80,000 of fund balance. Again, keeping in mind that 50 is for a one-time study. If we use it, if we don't use it, it'll just drop back to fund balance. And we are planning equipment purchases based on what is in the capital plan. So I don't have a lot more to say about that either. Okay. Page 14 is the DB, which is really the road maintenance primarily. And again, this is where that large state aid number is that Michael, you asked about earlier, why the big change. It's both in revenue and in expenses. And you'll also see that in our current year-end projections, we're looking to spend more in 2025 as well, utilize them more of that state aid. So we've already spent some of it, but we're gonna try to spend, more of it to improve roads this year.
Mhm.
And that's kind of it. Again, the staffing allocation is a little different. So the percentages are changing here in terms of allocations of time and benefits. So. Page 15 is the EMS and fire. I think we've probably talked about that a lot already. I'm not gonna say any more about it. Page 16, and it doesn't have a number on the bottom. It's the only one who doesn't have a number. So I think the people could figure that out. Excuse me. Are our smaller water districts, 1, 2, and 4. Sorry, I seem to have a frog in my throat. What I do want to say is that in Water District 1, there's an increase in activity. Again, we're just buying the water from the village and then passing on the cost of that to the few people who are participating in the district. The volume, though, has doubled. So the budget has been updated to reflect that. The bottom line doesn't have any effect on the tax levy. On the bottom line. It's just in and out.
Is that cars using the water?
It is.
Did they say what it was for?
They're expanding what they're
Yeah, but
doing
then
over there.
that's coming out of the
And-
ground.
On any buildings. or
Yeah,
structures,
that's
yeah. Maybe it's dust control,
I don't know. I don't know, Carissa, do you know what?
but they're paying. for
Maybe
it.
they have a leak.
But
I don't think so. I mean, I think they know they're using it, but.
Hmm.
I'm guessing it has to do with their project.
Put like a
Probably
slip and
construction
slide out
stuff.
there for the summer or something.
I know someone came in asking about who to talk to about. Dealing with the water main, and of course, it's the village that they have to talk to, because it's the village's. Water and the village's infrastructure. So, we're just paying the bill and passing it on. I don't know much more about it.
It's just part of the original contract.
Yeah.
Just want to deal with that.
But the consumption has doubled, basically. So.
Could be construction related.
So that is page 16, and 17 is the Water District 3. We've spent quite a bit of time with Water District 3 analyzing our water purchases, making sure we understand what we're purchasing versus what we're using, and then what we're billing users to make sure that we don't have losses that are unaccounted for in terms of water that we're paying for but not billing out for, or not knowing what it is. And I think Scott and Carissa have done a great amount of work to really nail that down, and I feel pretty good about this budget going forward in terms of how much are we spending for water purchases versus how much is water loss. We're right around 15%. And I think that's considered pretty typical or pretty normal. At least that's what the town has said. So in terms of working with Bolton Point, whereas last year we were higher than that, in terms of the ratio, because we did in fact have a leak and we did identify it and correct it. So we've actually purchased some equipment this year to help detect that better, so that we can catch those things soon.
Scott did.
Yes, Scott did. So I think looking at trends and all of that next year, we're feeling pretty good about that. Not a huge change in terms of our other costs. Again, we took out that amount for engineering. And I do have $30,000, which is at the bottom of page 17 for the repair reserve and the capital reserve, which we also did last year. So, or in the current year. So we're just sort of starting to add to those reserves. And again, we'll have a better idea of what our goals might be after we've done some analysis of what the system needs are. So on the revenue side, we're looking at I'm trying to remember now. 7% increase in rates from the town for water. And we're we have to add to our own rates to cover the cost of operations, and so our rates are going up closer to 10%, I think. Trying to remember. I don't have it in my head, but I do have it written down. I know we reviewed this in detail in our line by line meetings as well, but
Yeah, it's going up 7% at Bolton, from Bolton Point, right?
right. Let me just glance at that real quick, so I have it written down here. Yes, it's going, well, actually, yeah. I have our cost going up 8%, but yeah, the rate is 7%, and I have our revenue. Going also, going up to $12.90, which is $1. And I think that's closer to 10% as far as a rate increase. But it's $1 per thousand gallons of water.
Have used, well used.
Water used, yeah. So this is based on actual usage. And so we have to cover the cost of the increase from Bolton Point plus our own cost of operation. So that's where that's coming from. And we're trying to get to a point where the actual water usage that we're charging for people who are actually using the water is paying for actually getting it to them. And you know, whether it's but not the infrastructure. So, you know, the reserves and any equipment or capital costs or overhead costs would be part paid for by taxes, essentially by everyone in the district, but the users would be paying for the cost of getting the water to them and purifying the water that goes to them and that kind of thing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get a balance there in terms of what we're charging and what it costs to actually do that. The biggest cost of which is purchasing water.
But it's a gradual process.
It's a gradual process. Yeah, very gradual. So so the increase was about $1 per thousand for that we're proposing in this budget. And I think that's really all I have to say about this. We're not planning to appropriate any fund balance or anything like that here.
Good job.
Good work.
So you know where the direction of this is going, and we're actually 2 weeks ahead of schedule if you want to go ahead and schedule the public tonight. Typically, we review this over the course of 2 meetings. But we had great attendance, the line by line. So if you feel comfortable, and let's see, these are the only numbers I would need from you to actually do this. I'm sorry, I didn't think we'd get to this tonight. Be the percentage, the increase in the tax levy and the tax rate. A percentage, so this is, I'm gonna read my screen, we're supposed to fill in these blanks. I don't know if you
Okay.
can read it.
Yeah.
If we can do that tonight, we could actually move towards scheduling a public hearing.
Sure.
You would just have to be able to fill us in for it tonight.
Okay,
the
if that's what
percentage-
people want to do, yeah.
Maybe the percentage increase in the tax levy and the percent tax rate decrease for town residents outside the village. And a percent levy increase and percent tax rate decrease for Village of Trumansburg residents.
Okay, so. Um. So the tax rate, the tax increase, the levy itself is 3.13%. Is that one of the numbers you were asking?
So it'd be the percent increase in the tax levy for town residents outside the village.
Okay,
That's why I didn't fill them in myself. Cause it's not. as clear.
gotcha.
Do you use in other municipalities? I'm using a template. No?
Yes, I don't think it's required, it's just.
Okay.
No, I don't do this
Share
in other
information.
municipalities.
Okay. So maybe we just eliminate that part. This has just been the template that's been used the last several years.
Is that for like the resolution to schedule the public hearing to get that information out? And that's not.
Could we put that information in the public hearing and notice without having it in the resolution? Because then we need to click the chance to actually let's look at this, make sure we're.
Yeah,
not doing it
I
on the
would
fly.
like to look at it when I could, like,
Yes, exactly.
Like,
make sure that I'm being really correct about what I'm saying.
Well, how do folks feel? Do you want to take another meeting to talk more about this?
No.
I,
No.
you know, I'm fine with these numbers.
Okay.
I don't think Rich will.
He was that every line by line, right?
I need to provide the number of units.
Yeah, that's true.
not
I'm
gonna
still-
change the total.
No, but I have to, that has to be updated
Okay,
before we can finalize
okay, so we can't do it tonight.
this. I mean, you could schedule the public hearing.
Well, then so we have to accept the tentative budget to schedule the public hearing. And
Right.
Into the preliminary budget. Do you feel comfortable then? We would have to go through and make resolution changes.
Well, I guess, you know, the number of units, as you see, sort of in the middle, so I'm looking at page 3. Have to do with how much of the taxes are assigned to, you know, each unit for the water districts, right? Because it's, you know, it's specifically for that district. And it's based on the number of units, not the assessed valuation. So that allocation has to be updated before we can finalize this. For
what are
each
units?
district.
So it's
In
how
yellow in the
number
middle.
of
the share that
hookups.
each
Yeah,
property
but
is going to pay.
hookups,
towards
okay.
the
Yeah,
Operation.
So an apartment building would have, 4 or something.
Correct.
Okay.
right. So you can see with Water District 4, there's only 3. Right? And so that's kind of where we are.
In Water District 2, there's only one, but it doesn't have any.
Right, they don't have
not
any
considered.
taxes.
Okay. Oh,
We just bill them for the water they use. There's no taxes associated with that.
Water District 1.
Water District 1 has 100 units, but only a few who are actual users. Right? No.
So there's, there are a few, there's 3 properties there and, they just, one of them is cars, so they use the lion's share of that. Probably 90% of that 100 units.
Oh, okay, so they have multiple units at one location.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm perfectly fine taking this to the next meeting and having this finalized. That's.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, the thing is, aside from the units, it's not going to change the levy, right? None of what we're talking about is gonna change the budget. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
It's just going to change the calculation of what the tax rate is per unit, if there are more units. That's the issue. Okay, or if there are less units, So-
So once you adopt the preliminary budget. No, so we accept the tentative budget, turn it into the preliminary budget, take the preliminary budget to public hearing.
that's correct.
And then from there, before we adopt the final budget, we would have to recognize any changes we made.
That's correct.
So we would have to recognize that change.
Right, so, right now, the way this is scheduled is that, at your next meeting on October 7th, you're finalizing and approving the preliminary budget. So this becomes preliminary, not tentative, and you approve it. This is our preliminary budget from the board. And this is what's going to the public for the public hearing. Once it's a preliminary budget, and it would be good if those numbers were correct for that.
Okay, so then we'll
Right.
just do that at the.
Just so that the public has that to look at when
Sure.
they're voting on it, right? Or not voting on it. I'm sorry,
Oh.
we're not in a school district. When they're giving feedback
Sure.
to the board about the preliminary budget. And then there has to be, the notice of public hearing has to be at least 5 days between the publication and the hearing date.
Yeah, so we will.
So the hearing was scheduled or on this schedule for the 21st, which is the next board meeting.
So those are the wrong dates. So we
Are
have,
they?
our meetings are the 14th and the 28th.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch that on your thing. So second Tuesday and fourth Tuesday. So
I must have been looking at the wrong calendar.
no worries. That's still within, we could do the public hearing on the 28th.
So we'll have two public hearings on the 20th.
Yeah.
Fun.
And
Yeah.
then we will have the final tweaks. Or this final tweak to the tentative budget. For our October 14th meeting and move on from there. It's 3 weeks from now. Because there's an extra Tuesday in September, so we have a fifth Tuesday this month.
So the idea would be that you're adopting the budget on the 28th
Mhm.
after the public hearing. Assuming that there's no need for further. If there's no issues,
Right.
right?
Right.
If there are issues, you would have to have another meeting.
Well, we're gonna have the meeting on the 14th, so if Rich has any concerns between now and then.
Right.
He participated in most of the line by lines, so, but if he has any concerns, we can make modifications that night
Right,
to the preliminary and then adopt it.
right, for the preliminary
Sorry.
budget.
We
Right.
would make changes to the tentative and then adopt it as a preliminary.
That's right. But I'm thinking after your public hearing,
Right.
if there was some concern that the board wanted to address or make a
Sure.
change to. That would have to happen, before you could adopt it,
And our deadline for adoption is,
no later than November 20th.
Do we have plenty of time?
I was gonna say. We
yeah,
got some time.
So, I mean, I
That's
threw the 11th in there. That is in fact, I think, the second Tuesday in November, but it's also Veterans Day, so.
We're meeting the next day after that.
yeah, we
Yeah.
moved our town board meeting to the
To
12th.
to the 12th,
Yeah,
okay.
because of the holiday.
So that would be your alternate time
Yeah.
for final adoption if there were some concern or problem. I mean, I don't anticipate that, but
You never know.
you wanna have a backup plan. I can revise this. I don't know what I was looking at.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it because I reviewed that agenda, or I reviewed that calendar months ago. Great, no, this is great, thank you, Lexi.
Okay.
And for the public's sake, we did have the public hearing on the tax cap override. I see no reason to vote on a local law to override the tax cap, because we don't need to, so. Not planning to bring that to you.
Good job.
Awesome. Any other discussion for the daily order on budgets? Lacey will give us, it'll be the same except for that one item, right? The units.
The
So we can
units.
Hang on to these.
Yes,
Pretty close.
yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. We had minutes, I can't remember, did we have 2 sets this week? Carissa,
I posted a lot today, I'm not sure.
I did not get to read all of them. You did post a lot today. I'm good to go on the August 27th and 8th of September. I have not reviewed, wait a minute, no, sorry. I got through the 9th of September. So I'm good to vote on 8/27, 9/8, and 9/9. Is everybody okay with that? Then we could hold off on 9/10, 11, and 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to approve. The minutes from August 27th special meeting, September 8th special meeting, and September 9th regular meeting, as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Thank you, Chris. I know it's an awful lot
A
of
lot.
meetings in this budget cycle. Appreciate it.
You're also doing the health plan meetings. So,
Yeah.
which is a lot. It's a lot.
You're in minute heaven, aren't you?
That is not the word she would use, but.
I know, I chose to use
Upcoming events, so I jumped over upcoming events, just flagging for you that Three Falls is gonna have a community engagement event, for the new state park from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Trumansburg Farmers Market, this coming Saturday. There's also, a survey that we're circulating. So please provide feedback. It would be really, really helpful. I'd like to see a ton of Ulysses participation in that survey that's directly benefiting the master plan that's being created right now. We're getting that out and pushing that. It got sent out through the school district yesterday. And we're trying to get it actually into classrooms and things like that as well, if possible. Working with the high school civics engagement program that is there.
I've
And
been
that,
sharing it on Facebook,
Yeah.
as has the village, as has the ice cream bar.
yes. Because I'll be the vendor. Both the ice cream bar and Trimmers were invited to vend at that event. Ice cream bar was able to, which we appreciate. So hopefully we have good weather. And public-
Trivers is gonna be at the football game.
Yeah. And then, on the 6th, we have our comprehensive plan open house at the Racker Center from 4 to 7. We're also going to, most likely have a table set up for the Cornell Design Connect, students who are working on, getting community engagement on a municipal park. They're doing a site visit this weekend. And then our next regular meeting, is the 14th, and then the 28th, and the 28th, we're gonna have 2 public hearings most likely. And then just a reminder that we moved our date for the first meeting in November. I don't have any other board notifications. Is there anything else anybody wanted to share?
We have a comp plan steering committee meeting tomorrow. Yeah, there's lots of chapters to be reading, so hopefully everybody's been doing their homework.
It's been a lot. I will be a few minutes late because I gotta pick up the kids from sports at 5, and then I gotta run home, and then I'll be over, so I will be here tomorrow. But probably about 10
We're
minutes
gonna be
late.
going through the future land use map,
Yeah.
so it'll be fun.
Great. Okay, well, that brings us back to privilege of the floor. There's nobody in person, but we do have someone online. Mr. Sherman, are you interested in addressing the board? You have 3 minutes.
When did you say that site visit is?
Saturday.
I'm sorry,
This Cornell Connect, or Cornell.
it's sometime this weekend. I actually don't know the time at the top of my head. I came through my email the time that they confirmed, but I'm not sure for the property owner.
Can you just let me know if you can find out? We have friends staying there this weekend.
Sure, they're not coming on private property.
Well, right, but they'll be basically in the yard, so
Okay, sure, we'll communicate.
that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Rich is not here, so.
Oh, yeah, move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh,
I waited
I'm
as well.
sorry, I was already out of here.